Miriam, so the last time we met you guys talked about a pandemic.
I think having skills is definitely a good thing to have.
Why?
In case.
Oh, just in case.
In case of what?
Pandemic. Imagine how quickly a super pandemic is spread around the world.
It's inevitable something like this would break out. It's just a matter of when and how serious it would be. Life hasn't changed much. If you're living in a remote place, unless I had a radio or something, I wouldn't have even known it happened.
Yeah, I think some people really struggled with isolation and not seeing friends. And, well, we only see each other anyway.
That dream of getting away, pulling the plug, going bush, we all dream of it sometime. But Miriam Lancewood and husband Peter did. These nomads have lived off the land for nearly a decade. We first met them 3 years ago, deep in a Taranaki forest, not long before Miriam released an international bestseller about their lives. Then they disappeared into the wilderness again. But as Mark Preisel discovers, what's happened to them since almost tore them apart.
The thing with nomads, you can't exactly Google their address.
Hi guys.
Hi, Mark.
You're not easy to find.
No, we're in the middle of the jungle.
For the past 10 years, Miriam and Peter have had no fixed abode.
Where the hell have you been?
We've been all over the world.
Off the grid and on the edge.
An emotional and an arduous journey.
It's almost lethal.
And it's come close to destroying them.
We thought this is it. We were prepared that he might pass away.
I first met Miriam and Peter in 2017, way out in the back blocks of Taranaki.
Well, that's our camp,
Very nice.
where we've been for several weeks.
They turned their backs on the rest of us.
Dinner's already? Tea, even better.
Living free in a tent out the back of Beyond, fending for themselves with what they could find on the land.
We were both longing for the wilderness and natural places.
There's 30 years between them, but they were making it work.
He's a little bit the brain and I'm a little bit the body. And so together we are very strong.
Then Miriam wrote a best-selling book about their life and became something of a celebrity. Our story racked up millions of views worldwide. Hollywood wanted her to be a female Bear Grylls.
Do you sometimes worry that you're becoming a brand?
Yes, I think I have to always be careful to stay authentic. And, yeah, don't let money rule anything.
Which is good, so we'll do something.
Now, 3 years later, they're re-emerging from the bush for a new book.
How many times should we mention this book and this story, do you think?
3 times.
3 times?
Up until now, Peter and Miriam have been well off the radar.
Where have you been since we last saw you?
We went to Europe.
Miriam grew up in Holland, but wanted to find a different route along Europe's well-worn paths.
And we walked 2,000 kilometers through France, Switzerland, Germany and Austria. Then we took a bus to Bulgaria and we walked another 1,000 kilometers in Bulgaria and Turkey.
After the splendid isolation of the great New Zealand outdoors, Europe was something of a shock.
So there's just many more people. And we had to carry water, which is so heavy. Unbelievable. That's an extra 10 liters, 10 kilos. Oh, so I couldn't hunt. I couldn't hunt in Europe. So we just bought our food in the supermarkets on the way.
This is Miriam on the hunt. Sometimes it's hard to believe she was vegetarian before taking up this lifestyle.
Nice.
Definitely going well now.
It cost them around $5,000 a year to live this way.
Did you put the bones in as well?
Yeah.
Great.
There's also some chilies.
They eat when they're hungry and have something to put in the pot.
Is this what you caught yesterday?
Yeah. This is my hair, the big female hair. It was this big, wasn't it?
Awesome.
No complaints on the quality of the kai from this townie.
It's all right, eh?
Yeah, it's great. It's tasty.
You need your sustenance when you walk as much as Miriam and Peter.
What is it in you that makes you want to keep moving?
I actually think it's natural, don't you? I think it's our natural in our blood. Well, maybe not 100% of the people, but 50% of the people, I guess, they want to be nomadic.
By the time they'd reached Turkey, they'd walked 5,000 kilometres in 3 years. But Peter was in his mid-60s and his tank was empty.
Peter said, I had enough. I can't walk up and down mountains with a backpack anymore. And I realized that, you know, that was the end for long walking. But it doesn't mean to say this is the end of our adventurous life.
Now 37, Miriam has always been realistic about their age difference.
When I met Peter, the very first day I walked into his hut and I heard a voice in the back of my head saying, if you go with this man, you will see him die.
As their journey continued, that finite conclusion was about to enter their lives.
How sick were you, mate?
I was staring the end in the face, yeah, definitely.
And by the end, you mean death?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Halfway through a car ride in 2018 in the Australian desert, Peter's kidneys started failing.
At one point, when I was in the flying doctor trip from one hospital to another in Australia, I really hoped the plane would crash. That's how terrible I felt. It wasn't good for the pilot or the nurse, but I thought this will get me out of this horror. Yeah.
When I first met Miriam, she told me about a pact they'd made.
What will you do if he can't pick up his pack and carry it and keep up with you?
Then I'll carry it for him. I'll carry him.
That time had come.
He was so weak and he had not even energy to smile and to talk. And then that was the saddest moment because I realized I could not carry him. Yeah. My physical strength, it's useless, isn't it?
They returned to New Zealand and for the first time in 9 years had to live in a house.
That was a very difficult time for both of us. Because in a house, you're in a building. You're cut off from the forest. You don't hear the creek, you don't hear the birds, you don't feel the wind.
Miriam had an out.
It's been absolutely amazing and lucky we survived. We are alive.
She'd organised an expedition into the Southern Alps with another Dutch woman in early 2019. Peter gave his blessing for her to go.
I thought he would recover. I am very positive, always.
Amongst the elements, she was back in her element.
Hi, we are in the Hopkins and we found a cave and we fit in it exactly with our 2 sleeping bags.
But then she got a message from Peter. His latest blood test showed he had chronic kidney failure.
Yeah, first of all, I thought, what am I doing here? I should be going home straight away. I mean, running around in the mountains, hunting animals. The hunting felt also really weird. I was suddenly, you know, I want to preserve life and not go on hunting. So it felt all meaningless, totally meaningless. So I straight away sent a message back saying I'll come home. And then Peter said, no, calm down. This might be your last chance. You are in the wilderness, make the most of it and finish your trip and then come home.
Peter had a 3% chance of survival. His best shot, dialysis and joining the waiting list for a new kidney.
I offered him my kidney. Well, it's the least I could do in it. I got 2 good kidneys and people can live with one, so I thought I'd give him one.
Peter rejected both options.
Those would have prolonged your life.
It would have been a life, and obviously many people are prepared to do that, but I wasn't. From living a nomadic life and that, I just couldn't face a life like that.
Housebound, they hunkered down. Peter's so sick, he wanted to end it all.
You contemplated
I did, yeah.
euthanasia.
I did because I thought, being that ill, I mean, feeling nauseous 24 hours a day, absolutely zero energy, 20 hours a day in bed, 4 hours up, which even that was exhausting. Couldn't walk 100 metres. And you really think for a person like me, lived the life I had, that's about as bad as it can get.
Were you afraid of him dying?
I was. Yeah, it was be the end of my life as I know it. We've been together for nearly 15 years. Yeah, he's everything to me.
Could you live this way
Alone?
alone?
No,
You
wouldn't
couldn't.
like it.
I was more worried about how she'd live with me if I couldn't recover. For what a life she would have if I was stuck having to go to a hospital or being dependent on medical services to the point where I couldn't live a nomadic life anymore.
But then Peter looked around him.
The nature of life is healing. It's always trying to do it. You look around here, and everywhere you look, you see things falling over and trying to grow back up again. And life doesn't want to die. And I felt that we give up too easily, a lot of us humans, and think, oh no, this is it. But the natural world doesn't do that. It keeps on going until it can't.
He would keep on going until he couldn't.
He is not afraid of death. And for a lot of people, myself included, I would be afraid of death. But that takes up a lot of energy, that fear. And if you don't have that fear, maybe that very energy is needed to recover.
Peter decided to give his body the time to recover. No medical intervention, no alternative medicine.
Both of them are intervening. They're not saying, what happens if I do nothing but rest, exercise as much as I can, be very careful with the diet, and just let the body recover.
Might they recognise Peter?
2 years on,
But I feel like I'm getting younger.
he's not only alive,
The silver years.
Silver years. Okay.
he's practically thriving. They both are.
I think I'm about 80% where I was before this happened.
Have you been to the doctor?
No, not for a bit.
That's just a guess though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a guess. I could just tell by energy level and how quickly I get tired. Started walking all around this place and increased it slowly. I can do 15, maybe 20 kilometres now. Whereas 2 years ago, I couldn't walk 100 metres.
Every day is a bonus.
We have to be really careful, always. His kidneys, I think, will be weak for the rest of his life, and we just got to live with that.
And now the new books on the shelves, they'll set off again, living free in a tent out the back of beyond.
This summer we'll be back in the mountains, and we have to do it more carefully. We will organise our food, we make sure we have warm blankets and that with us now, a little bit extra.
Are you settled now?
No, I hope not to settle. Never.
Yes, there's no holding them down. Miriam and Peter are being cautious, though, about his health, and Peter's promising to see a doctor and get a blood test very soon. Miriam's new book, Wild at Heart, is out now.